Welcome everyone to Keep Playing, Being Recruited to Play NAIA College Sports webinar. My name is Kate Reich and I am the organizer for today's event. Please know that all of your microphone connections with today's webinar have been muted. During the presentation, you may ask questions or provide comments for the presenter by using the chat and/or question functions located in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen. To use these functions, click on the chat or question bubble and then click into the blank box area and enter your question using your keyboard. Then click Send. Today's webinar will feature one poll. To participate, when the poll launches on your screen, please use your mouse to make your selection and then click Submit. The webinar presentation will run for 30 minutes, leaving some time at the end for the presenter to answer any questions that you have provided. You will be asked to complete a brief evaluation about this webinar later today, and your feedback is greatly appreciated. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded, and you will all receive a copy of the final recorded presentation, which we will email to you once the recorded file is available. Now I'm happy to introduce Christopher Cosentino, Interim Director of NCEA's Secondary Schools Department. Chris would like to share a few words with you before the presentation begins.
Thank you, Kate, and I just want to again thank everyone for joining us today. Just a quick reminder, we're hoping everyone can join us for our national convention, which will be April 7th through April 9th, 2015 in Orlando, Florida. And registration for the convention is open. If you have an opportunity to get to our website, please make sure you take some time to register, and we hope to see everybody with us in Orlando. And I just want to take a minute and thank our partners at the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. We are happy to be partners with them and appreciate them taking some time today to share some great information that I think will be beneficial to all of those who are signed on. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker, Angela Crawford, who is the Manager for Marketing and Communications with the NAIA. Angela?
Thank you, Kate and Chris, and thank you to everyone on this webinar for taking some time from your day to learn more about the options that your student athletes have for continuing to play sports after high school. So I want to start out with a little bit of background about the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. The NAIA was founded in 1937 to offer the first collegiate national championship tournament in basketball. Since then, the NAIA has been the first in many areas, including the first collegiate athletics association to invite historically black schools into membership, and the first to sponsor both men's and women's national championships. In 2000, the NAIA reaffirmed its purpose to enhance the character-building aspects of sport through our Champions of Character program. I'll speak more about that in a moment. We're very proud of the fact that every student athlete matters, and we can give them the personal attention that they need to succeed. The NAIA has more than 62,000 student athletes at our 260 schools throughout the United States and Canada. Nearly 40 of our schools have a Catholic affiliation, and the majority of NAIA colleges are faith-based. NAIA student athletes have a chance to compete for one of 23 national championships and 4 national invitationals, while earning a portion of the more than $500 million in scholarships that NAIA schools provide. So it's a great way for students to get an education and get it paid for while they continue to play in college. The NAIA is in growth mode with our sports, and we're always looking to add new sports. You can see here that the NAIA offers most team and individual sports at the national championship level, but we also have many sports that are working toward championship status. Currently, competitive cheer and dance is on its way to becoming a championship sport as early as the year 2017. Most of our other emerging sports also hold invitationals and are working to add more schools to become championship sports. You can use the hashtags noted here to follow the most recent updates from each sport on our various social media. You'll note that we have traditional sports listed here, but we also have some schools trying some untraditional things when it comes to varsity athletics. We have a school based out of Chicago, Robert Morris, that this year became the first college to offer video games as a varsity sport. They offer 50 top scholarships, and they had thousands of students inquire just within the first couple of months of announcing it. Again, it's a great opportunity for our schools to explore different things with adding sports and bringing more students to their campus to continue and get an education. As you can see, we've got NAIA schools all over the country with a heavier concentration in the Midwest, Southeast, and West Coast. We're always working on growing our membership, but wherever your students are thinking about attending school, we've probably got one nearby. Our size allows us, as well as our schools, to be more flexible in how we communicate, and we encourage prospective students to reach out to us by Twitter and other social media if that's their preferred method of communication. We have a member of our customer relations team who's dedicated to responding to inquiries on social media, so students can also learn more about the NAIA there and about the student-athlete experience by following these accounts. Another way that you and your students can get a better sense of what it's like to play at an NAIA school is by watching one of our national championship events. We've just wrapped up most of our fall championships, which were all streamed live on NAIAnetwork.com, which is the exclusive home for our national championship events. But next Friday is our football national championship. And Southern Oregon and Marion University, based out of Indiana, will be competing for the national championship title at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPNU. So again, it's a great way for your students and for you to see what it's actually like when student athletes in the NAIA are competing. As I mentioned earlier, almost 15 years ago, the NAIA adopted the Champions of Character program to reaffirm our commitment to character building as an integral part of the collegiate athletics experience. As part of the program, all NAIA student athletes take part in a 4-year series of online interactive courses that we call the Live 5 courses, which teach students the 5 Champions of Character core values and how to apply them to everyday life, both inside and outside of competition. Further, all NAIA coaches are required to complete character training within 60 days of their hire. The character-driven coaching courses and other Champions of Character resources are available for free at championsofcharacter.org for high school and club coaches to use as well. So if you're interested in implementing any of the Champions of Character programming at your school through your athletics department, I encourage you to visit championsofcharacter.org for all of those resources. In addition to tracking and measuring these values at all NAIA schools, each NAIA National Championship has a Champions of Character service project attached to it for all teams participating in the championship. Many student athletes tell us that these service projects are the most rewarding part of the championship experience. Our Instagram account that I mentioned earlier has a lot of pictures from the student athletes Champions of Character events from our most recent championship. So again, if you want to see what students are doing, that's a great way to find out more. Many high school administrators and coaches tell us that they are familiar with the maze of recruiting rules to which NCEA coaches and recruited students must adhere, but NAIA rules are very different. Being able to develop personal relationships is a hallmark of the NAIA and part of the philosophy behind NAIA recruiting rules. NAIA recruiting rules don't restrict when or how often the student and college coaches can communicate. The NAIA's approach allows the student and the coach to develop a rapport so that both feel confident they are making the right choice. This way, students can fully explore what NAIA schools have to offer them both athletically and academically and give themselves the best shot at getting a college scholarship to play. there is no recruiting calendar in the NAIA. This means that students and coaches can communicate year-round. There's also no limit to the number of communications or the means by which the communication takes place. The student's family and the coach set the terms for communicating, not the NAIA. Students are permitted 2 days of tryouts at each NAIA member school. The 2 days do not have to be consecutive, and the student may be provided with lodging, meals, etc. if the same would be provided to non-athletes trying out for other programs at the school. Another unique opportunity that students have in the NAIA is participation in our showcase events. The NAIA is the only collegiate athletics association to hold events like this, since our coaches are not restricted in their communication with high school athletes in the same way that NCEA coaches are. You can visit NAIAshowcase.com to stay up to date on any showcases that may be coming to your area. All right, now that we've made it through the first portion of the presentation, I thought I'd provide some brief entertainment from the winner of this past year's 2014 NAIA All-Star Slam Dunk Contest. That was Tyler Inman. And in my personal opinion, I don't even think that was his best dunk that he did that day, but that was the one that ended up winning him the slam dunk contest this year. I love this video because I think it shows that some of the great opportunities that NAIA student athletes have for exposure. This video, along with the video of all 4 of his dunks, ended up going viral right after our slam dunk competition, and because of his participation in the contest, he was drafted to play for the Harlem Globetrotters along with our runner-up in the slam dunk contest. The student who won first in our 3-point contest was signed to play professional basketball in Europe and is overseas currently, fulfilling that dream of his. There's plenty of opportunities for students to continue playing their sport after college if that's what they have their hearts set on. Now that we've covered some basic background on the NAIA, the Champions Character Program, and recruiting roles in the NAIA, I'm going to turn toward one of the most important steps for high school students that they must complete before they are able to play at an NAIA school. The NAIA Eligibility Center determines the eligibility of all first-time NAIA students and was put into place to ensure fairness among competitors. The NAIA Eligibility Center makes sure that if a student athlete is eligible at one school, they'll be eligible at all schools and vice versa. Prior to the Eligibility Center, each individual school was responsible for determining the eligibility of its athletes, which means that one school might determine a student who is not eligible and then come to find out their first competition, the student was playing for the opposing team. The Eligibility Center has delivered on our larger premise of integrity by making sure that we have fairness among all of our competitors. All high school students who are going to play in the NAIA must register with the NAIA Eligibility Center. The NCEA and the NAIA are separate organizations with separate rules and processes. So if a student is thinking about playing sports in college, the student should register with both the NAIA and the NCEA Eligibility Centers. The site to register is playnaia.org. We're often asked exactly when a student needs to register. For high school students, the time it takes to make a determination once all completed documents and information has been received is very short, just a few days. However, we recommend that the student register prior to sending any transcripts or test scores to the Eligibility Center. This helps to ensure that all records are matched correctly and avoid any delays. When a student registers, they're given a unique NAIA Eligibility Center identification number, which can be provided when they submit transcripts to help ensure matching. Since most students take the ACT and SAT their junior year, we'd recommend the student register prior to taking to their test, again, to just help make sure everything is matched correctly. There's a small registration fee prospective student athletes will pay when signing up for the Eligibility Center. However, the fee can be waived based on need. A student's guidance counselor can either mail, fax, or email us a letter stating which criterion the student meets for the waiver. High school students meet the qualifications for the waiver either by having a waiver of the ACT or SAT fees, participation in the federal, free, or reduced school lunch program, or receiving a Pell Grant of at least $4,500. More instructions about fee waivers and how they're sent can be found at playnaia.org. The requirements for a graduating senior to be eligible as a freshman in the NAIA are simple and straightforward. A student only needs to meet 2 of the listed criteria. A minimum cumulative GPA of 2.0 on a 4.0 scale, and that includes every course the student takes during high school. We don't look at course descriptions to decide which ones count toward their cumulative GPA. We take the GPA straight from their cumulative GPA on their transcript. An 18 composite ACT or 860 critical reading and math SAT, or graduation in the top 50% of their class after all final grades have been posted. Again, if a student meets any 2 of those requirements, then he or she is eligible to compete their freshman year in the NAIA. When a student is getting ready to take the ACT or SAT, make sure that the NAIA is listed as one of the places to have the scores sent. Our code is 9876. If the student has already taken the exam, they simply need to contact the testing service to have their scores sent to our office using that same code, 9876. We cannot take the scores off of transcripts. They must come directly from the testing service. So make sure the student's in touch with ACT or the College Board to have their scores sent to us using that code. The NAIA is different from the NCEA when it comes to test scores. The SAT is the combined reading and math scores, and the ACT is the composite score. We don't use the writing section, and the score must be achieved in one sitting. We don't combine scores from multiple exam dates to get a best total score. So again, the composite ACT as achieved on one date, and the SAT combined math and reading as achieved on one date. When students have transcripts sent to the NAIA, they must be sealed by the school's registrar, counselor, or the official in charge of sending transcripts for us to consider those transcripts official in our offices. The student may then place the sealed envelope in a larger envelope or send the envelope that was sealed themselves by putting a stamp on it. So a great way to make for us to know that it was sealed by the school is to have the school either sign over the flap after sealing it or put a stamp over the flap if you have one for your school. The student can then mail the sealed envelope themselves. We ask that only one high school transcript be sent to the NAIA Eligibility Center and that it be sent after high school graduation once all final grades have been posted. The only exception for this is if the student qualifies for an early decision. To meet the requirements for an early decision, the student must have either a minimum ACT or SAT score as described earlier, so 18 ACT or 860 SAT, and at least a B average after their junior year, or a 2.5 average midway through their senior year. If the student meets these requirements, then they should have the transcript sent to the NAIA at the point at which they've met those requirements, and we will issue an early decision. An early decision is a final determination from the NAIA Eligibility Center. So if the student is determined eligible through an early decision, no additional transcripts are needed once the decision is confirmed. It's great for recruiting because the student coach knows the student will be eligible as soon as they step foot on campus. Admissions requirements at specific NAIA schools may be different, either higher or lower than NAIA eligibility standards. So it's important that the student checks with the school about the requirements for admissions and scholarships. They also need to send all of their information directly to the NAIA school. Due to FERPA, the NAIA and our member schools are not allowed to share the records we receive from the students. So all records need to be sent individually to the NAIA Eligibility Center and directly to the student's campus. I understand this is a lot of information to take in, so we've created a dedicated resource website where you can download a video series that contains a lot of this information to use at a college sports information session if your school puts one on. We also have a PowerPoint and script that contains much of the same information as well if you don't have the technology to run the videos. You can print off a registration checklist for your student athletes to use, and if you're interested, you can learn more about the NAIA rules from the NAIA Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete, which is also available on the website. You can find all of these materials at the website collegesportsinfo.org, and that's collegesportsinfo.org. To track your students going through the Eligibility Center registration process, to make sure that they aren't missing anything or see where they're at in the process, and provide us with important information that we need to make eligibility decisions for your students, we're asking that every high school create a profile for their school at playnaia.org. There's no cost to the high school to create this profile, since it's information that we need to make determinations for the student. If no one from your school has set up a profile yet, then you will be the primary user when you set up your school's account. We have instructions on the website for adding additional users on the page where you set up your account, but if you do add additional users, you'll need to provide them with your school's NAIA ID number. This is different from your personal Eligibility Center ID number, so make sure you look in the body of your school's profile to find the NAIA ID number to add for additional staff to add. We recommend having at least the athletic director and a school counselor as users on your profile, but some schools also include other administrators or coaches who are directly involved in the process of helping students get recruited and continue playing in college. Setting up the profile only takes a few minutes, as we don't ask for any of the class lists or course descriptions for your school. We're only asking for some simple information about your school's GPA scale, some other information that appears on transcripts such as class rank, and some contact information for key administrators at your school. So once you've created a profile for your school, you'll be able to log in and see the eligibility status and progress of any of your students at the school who've registered with the NAIA Eligibility Center. You can filter the list by year and then click on the status to see exactly what a student may be missing to prevent him or her from receiving a final eligibility determination. For example, if the student hasn't yet submitted their transcript or needs a class rank letter, you'll be able to see that and help them in getting the correct documents submitted. You can also see what students have been determined eligible or why they haven't received a determination yet. You can see from this example list from a few years back that most all of these students have received either early decisions or regular decisions of eligible. For the student at the bottom who's listed as pending, you could click on that status and find out why. The NAIA Eligibility Center uses what's called a short list, which is essentially a coach's recruiting list, to determine which students are a priority for receiving an eligibility decision. high school students do not need to be placed on a short list to receive the determination. We will process every high school student who is registered and has completed documents and information sent to us. However, when it comes to that August crunch time, when we receive a flood of students wanting last-minute determinations, we use this short list to prioritize who receives the determination first. If a student is interested in being placed on a short list because they can see on their profile that they aren't yet on one, they'll need to talk to the coach because each coach determines who to put on their short list. But only students who have registered with the Eligibility Center can be listed on a school short list. After a student's Eligibility Center registration has been completed, the status of the determination will be updated on the student's to-do list. This can also be viewed from the high school profile, as I mentioned previously. Students can accept scholarships, enroll in classes, and even practice with a team prior to receiving their determination. They cannot step foot in a competition before being determined eligible. Some schools also have their own policies that students can't practice before receiving a determination of eligible, which is up to each individual school. So make sure that the students register early to avoid delays in that August and September rush. We always see a spike in students needing determinations right as the sports season is getting started. Additionally, if a student has anything more complicated in their case that may require longer for us to provide a decision, for example, if the student's grading scale is not a 4.0 and it's not listed on the transcript what the grading scale is, then we have to get in touch with the school to confirm that. And sometimes that can take longer, especially over the summer when administrators aren't always in their office consistently. Additionally, if the student has a learning disability and doesn't meet the minimum requirements for eligibility, the student can submit a request for an exception based on their learning disability, and that usually takes up to 2 weeks for our learning disability committee to get a determination back to the student. Anything like that may be something that the student needs to consider and make sure that they have all of their documents in plenty of time for us to get a response to them prior to their season starting. At this time, I'll take any questions that you have. You can submit them through the chat window in your webinar viewer. You can also email us or call us if you would like to ask a question at a later time. And then also, I know there is a poll, and I will let Kate explain that, but we'd like to know more about how we can get information to you about all of these types of things that I discussed today.
Yes, thank you, Angela. This is Kate again. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll just so we can get some information from you about how you prefer to hear about updates from NAIA. And again, I just posted the information email and phone number if you have any questions for Angela after this evening. But before we say our goodbyes, I'd like to bring a few NCEA updates to your attention. First, the marketing toolkit is now available for NCEA members who have renewed through 2015, and this is the marketing kit for our Catholic Schools Week, celebrated beginning January 25th. And for those members who have renewed, they'll have access to a complimentary electric version of the toolkit. We also have a printed version as well as a Catholic Schools Week poster available in our online store. I also need to let you know that the NCEA webinar program will be taking a brief hiatus, but we invite you to visit ncea.org/webinars to view the schedule that will resume January 12th. I'd like to thank Angela for all that she shared with us this evening. Again, it's a lot of information, but great information, and NAIA certainly has a wealth of information additional to this presentation and other resources available at their website. So please visit naia.org. And I'd like to conclude this evening's webinar.